Hi everyone, you are listening to an English Society podcast with spoken word artist Ravelle-Sade Fairman and myself Chinekshi. Thank you for joining me, Ravelle. So to start off this podcast, I'm very interested in knowing why you name yourself a poetic perception. What does it mean?
Well, to be fair, when it came about, I never expected to be doing as much poetry as I am, as crazy as that sounds. But I feel like in life, all we have is our perception. Like, no matter what we experience or go through, it goes through this filter of our perception and the way we see life.
Right.
So it was just a statement to say that this is my perception, especially in a day and age where people aren't as free to express their opinion in a way. So yeah, I just felt like it was important to let people know that it's just a part of something in my mind.
Right, that's a very interesting philosophical outlook on your career as a poet. So what did you mean by how we don't really have the outlets to express ourselves anymore?
I can't say like flat out we don't, but at the same time, I feel like when someone makes a statement, I feel like there's a lot of the time people can penalize others kind of and make out like they have to speak for a whole generation,
Absolutely.
age, race, whatever it is. And I feel like it was important for me to own my words as my perception rather than something that I'm imposing on everyone and this is how you should live life kind of thing.
Wow, that's very interesting, very enlightening.
Thank you.
So let's get a bit into your background. So how did you get into poetry, and are there any particular poetic inspirations from your childhood or from your life?
Well, pretty sadly, my grandma passed away about 3 years ago now.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, thank you. But she was such an important part of my life that when she passed away, I just sat on a bus and I was like, I want to encapsulate everything that she means to me and just like honor her in some way. And so I just got onto the notes on my phone and started writing, and it turned into a poem. And it just came so effortlessly, and I wrote this whole poem in like 10 minutes. And crazily enough, I performed it at her funeral, which was like my first time getting up on stage and speaking to people and whatnot. So yeah, that's what inspired me to start writing. And then about a week later, I started then just writing about my own mental health, about anxiety and stuff like that. Luckily, the poetry festival was in Nottingham, and I thought, oh well, if I'm writing, I might as well go and see what everything's about. See it live and stuff. And so yeah, I just ended up going, and then someone basically said, "Do you want to get on stage?" And I just thought, I panicked inside. Everything in my brain was like, no, don't do it. But I just thought, go for it. I was at a stage in my life where I just felt like it's okay to be anxious and still get up. There's no point just waiting until I'm in this perfect place, because it doesn't come the majority of the time. Then someone basically said that the poem that I performed helped them to feel more normal. And it was literally, she started like crying in front of me, and it was from that day that I was like, oh, maybe my voice can actually help others to know that they're not alone and that these feelings are normal. Because yeah, I feel like when we isolate it and make ourselves feel like we shouldn't feel these ways, that actually just makes it worse. So yeah, that's how I got into it.
Right, that is so interesting. So it's so interesting how you like purposefully impacted like a person. Why do you think poetry makes people feel such an emotional way?
To be fair, well, yeah, I would agree that it brings out a lot of emotions, a lot of ranges of emotions. But I think it's because there's a lot of poetry that speaks about other topics, but I feel like it's naturally from that human's perspective. And so I feel like you have no choice but to connect to some degree or
Yeah.
listen and feel some way, whether you kind of go that was rubbish or
Yeah.
you kind of say that was the most amazing thing.
Hmm.
I feel like it's a performance and it's something that's presented to you. And but yeah, I feel like also with my poetry I focus on mental health, so I think in a day and age where people are trying to make out like everyone's living their best lives and
Yeah.
stuff like that and trying to put this mask on, just to hear someone get on stage and just be honest. And I think another thing is people think you have to look mentally unwell and you have to look physically unwell and all of these things.
Hmm.
So then when I get up on stage and then people see me, they're a bit like, what? And I think that like that's the reason why I do it, is to show
Yeah.
people that it doesn't matter what you look like, where you come from, everyone struggles in their own way at times in life. So yeah, I think that there's a bit of a shock factor too.
Yeah, certainly, certainly. And I've noticed that as a spoken artist, spoken word artist, that you sometimes incorporate, music into your performances. So why do you do so?
Well, firstly, before I started performing a lot more, I came across an artist called Akornaru from, she's in America, and she had like a live band behind her, and even though she was like, I can't, it was like a singing, talking, poetry, like there was just like a fusion going on.
Hmm.
And like, I just remember feeling like this is amazing to my ears. And I had like this visualization and I thought, if I can get on stage and do something like this would be the
Yeah.
most amazing thing.
Right.
So that was one of them. But also, I think it came about quite organically
Hmm.
because I have a lot of family members that are interested in music, producing and
Yeah.
playing and stuff like that. And so people just kept on coming to me and saying, oh, should we collab? Should we do this? And yeah, I feel like it just gave it a whole different dimension. So I started to explore.
Right. So, okay, that's really interesting to know how music can really positively impact your spoken word. So are there any particular types of music that go well with your spoken word?
Um, I don't think in genres, to be honest with
Hmm.
you.
Hmm.
I feel like it's more about the way that it feels to me, because I feel like I have a very big variation of the types of music that I like. So I feel like it's more about just what fits in with the poem rather than a specific sound I prefer.
Right.
But that being said, as I was saying, I do love the whole live instrument feel as opposed to like the electronic sounds that you come across.
Got it, got it, got it. So say, for instance, your poem, Compassion, would you pair that with classical music or something else, for instance?
You're saying that I'm just like going into the memory poem log. Compassion. To be fair, I have not tried that with music
Oh,
yet.
okay, okay,
So
fair enough.
I would have to listen to feel it out.
Okay, sure.
But
So,
I'm kind of feeling like maybe a bit more dramatic,
ah,
heartstrings music. So maybe a bit of more of a classical, laid back, piano kind of thing vibe I'm
cool,
feeling.
cool, cool. Nope, fair enough. It's your poetry. So yeah, so I've noticed also that you perform a lot of your poetry as well.
Mhm.
You've done so on stages and in Nottingham as well. So why do you do that? Do you intend for there to be a closer relationship with your listeners? Do you think that it results in your listeners understanding you better?
To be honest,
Oh,
when I perform, oh sorry.
and I forgot to mention, what also do you gain from it as well?
So yes, I think that when I get on stage, I don't believe that I've ever got on stage more for like I want people to understand me.
Got
I
it.
think it's more just for me to be a beacon, a light to show people that like I'm owning my own, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So I don't feel like I want anything from the audience specifically, but I feel like it's more about what I can give to them,
Yeah.
possibly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then in turn, because a lot of people do come and say things to me like that sounded terrible, like a lot of people.
Really?
But no, I feel like people have come to me and said that it's helped them with their
Okay.
confidence and their self-belief and just normalizing their experience. And I always say it's an exchange
Okay.
because I feel like as much as I normalize it for them, they reaffirm my journey for me.
Right.
And so I feel like just in getting on stage, I feel like it's helped me to build my own confidence, managing my anxiety, self-belief, making connections, and just having that sense that I'm doing this for a reason.
Yeah, certainly.
So
It seems that poetry is quite integral to who you are as a person. So everything from your name, Poetic Perceptions, to how you've expressed your grief over your grandmother's death through poetry, through even gaining the confidence to go on stage because of poetry. It certainly seems that a recurring theme is how integral poetry is to your identity.
Yes, as I say, because it's still a learning process for me. I feel
Yeah.
like I've been doing it for just over 2.5 years, nearly 3.
Yeah.
Now, so I can't say that I ever looked at myself as a poet. Like, funnily enough, it took me a very long time to even accept that I was a poet. And I feel like it was because going to school and stuff, you kind of see poetry as like this whole middle class,
definitely.
white male thing.
Yeah.
And so to kind of see myself, I feel like partially it just didn't speak to my identity. And partially there was a feeling that like, am I even allowed? Like, do you know what I mean? Like there's this kind of glass ceiling around being that way.
Absolutely.
And so I see to me, poetry is a way to get a message across. It's like the vehicle rather than the be all and end all destination. That makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get that. So speaking about your poems, for example, in your poem SOS and My Name, you intertwine your personal issues of feeling alone and isolated in your poetry. So, why? Does intertwining your personal issues and your personal feelings in such a way make you feel better? Do you think it strengthens your poetry? Do you think it will give something to listeners, as you mentioned before?
Well, the SOS is called Solitude or Survival, and that was basically that derived from the lockdown, just being in and realizing that as much as it's nice to be on your own, sometimes you can build like a barrier around yourself in a way. And so I feel like, again, just by speaking about that, if someone else can listen to that poem and realize that, oh, I'm not the only one, or she struggles with that too. So just normalizing it a bit more I feel like it's really helpful to other people as well as it is to. It's a cathartic feeling to me just to get it out of my body and get it onto paper. In terms of My Name, that is more like of an affirmation poem of just saying, like, I want to be reminded of my own strength and my own power when someone mentions my name. And so I feel, again, it just reaffirms how I feel. And also it kind of reminds me when I read my poems back and I'm like, oh, I wrote that. Oh yeah, like actually take your own advice, Ravelle-Sade. But yeah, I do believe that a lot of poets intertwine their personal experiences with their work.
Yeah.
And I believe that I do incorporate a lot of different emotions from the easiest ones to the hard ones. So yeah, I would say it makes me feel better just getting it out, to be honest.
And it's like you said, like it also brings a kind of authenticity to your poem as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, it really is like great. I have read some of your poems. It's great, really cool.
Thank you.
And so with your, this is a bit of a niche question, but with your poem Compassion, who exactly are you speaking to in this poem?
So Compassion to me is about basically just seeing people in pain or going through situations and like wanting to save them. So I feel like a lot of my poems, it's a bit strange, like as personal as they are, they're also very general.
Oh yeah.
And so I can't say that I wrote them for any one person.
Got it.
Because I feel like a lot of people go through life, and like I say, when you see a loved one that you care about, you want to take them out of it, you want to make them happy, you want to do all of this stuff, and that actually, to me, I'm learning that you have to learn to be able to sit with them and not pressure them to be happy, and just actually honor their feelings if you actually want to help that person. So again, it was just really a reflection that I came across and had a bit of an idea and decided to write.
Okay, no, I get that. And so on the kind of discussion of intertwining personal things with your poems, do you feel particularly liberated? I mean, of course, like you said so before, that you felt it was cathartic speaking out in your previous poems, but do you also feel particularly vulnerable? Do you feel, I don't know, do you feel kind of stuck once you kind of speak out in these words as well?
Yes and no. So I can't say that I feel liberated, just because as I say, I feel like it overrides me. Like, especially when I started performing, the craziest thing is that I would get on stage and just be so nervous and so anxious. But it's like there was just this deeper me that would just come and take over the show, and then just be like, I wouldn't necessarily memorize my words, but they would just be coming.
Yeah.
And even in my head sometimes I'm like, where is this coming from? How am I remembering all of this?
Yeah.
So I feel like there is a part of me that just dissociates, and it's like, what are you doing? But there's also that part of me, as I say, that is more like, my ethos has always been from the very first poem I put up, like, if I can help one person, I've done my job, like, and so that is what kind of gives me the motivation. But it is nice at the same time to get validation and normalization from other people when they say I relate and all of that kind of stuff. So at the same time, I think I'm also very careful as to not put anything out there that I would regret later. So I do have like a time to kind of ask myself, how do I feel about this? How vulnerable am I making myself? And am I going to regret it tomorrow? Because I feel like once you put it out into the universe, it's a bit hard to get it back sometimes.
Yeah. Certainly. And, oh Christ, I was going to ask a question, but I've forgotten now.
Apologies, it was me going on.
No, it was about your discussion. Oh Christ, well we'll come back to it later. But so going on to the next question about your identity. What is your ethnicity, by the way? I understand that you're a black woman, but what is your actual ethnicity?
So I am Black British with Jamaican heritage. So my grandparents are from Jamaica, but my parents were born in Britain. I'm obviously born in Britain. So yeah.
Cool. And so, do you feel compelled, as a Black British poet who has a Jamaican heritage as well? Do you feel compelled to write on, issues concerning racism, the Jamaican community, the Black British community?
To be honest, I definitely don't feel obliged. Because I have had people ask me, like with the death of George Floyd, someone asked me, like, are you going to write something in response to this? And sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, basically someone asked me, are you going to write something in response to the George Floyd murder? But as I've kind of maintained, my writing for me is more a natural process, and so I feel like my belief is that we should all have freedom, we should all be able to be ourselves.
Absolutely.
And if that's the main goal, then I feel like it's inevitable that I'm going to speak up on Black issues and issues, well, I say Black issues, but I don't think there's such thing. There's issues that affect the Black community, but I don't believe that they're isolated as our issues, if you know what I mean.
More white people issues.
Yeah, exactly. So from a humanitarian point of view, I believe that I feel compelled to speak about these issues, but at the same time, I don't believe that it's like a weight that's put on my shoulders. It's like, I'm Black, I need to say this. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. No, I get that. So, okay, well, we've discussed, how your ethnicity does influence how you create poetry. So what are some of the forthcoming projects with the New Perspectives? What are your projects? I think I read just now in your recent Instagram post that you're a trainee director for a project.
A trainee producer.
Producer, sorry.
Yeah. So no, it's fine. So yeah, currently I was reached out to by Jack McNamara, who is the director of New Perspectives. I recently just became a trustee at New Perspectives, actually, but they are adapting a play called The Fisherman, but it's now for the BBC Radio 3. So I got the opportunity to basically produce it alongside a lady called Polly Thomas for Naked Productions, which has been, well, I'm still in the process of doing this, but it is genuinely an amazing, insightful process.
I can imagine. Congratulations as well.
Thank you. In terms of New Perspectives, I've had because I got introduced to them through being a new associate at one of their programs that they were doing, and then I got to like open a stage play at the Nottingham Playhouse called Trade, and also I was lucky enough to have my poetry play. It was called Adversity, Understanding and Enlightenment, and that was funded by the Arts Council but through New Perspectives, so that was really nice.
Yeah. And could you just elaborate on what exactly The Fisherman is about?
Yes, so it is a Nigerian play, in which it's about 4 brothers who, I'm trying to explain it without giving away what happens.
Okay.
Yeah, I should have got a blurb, but yeah, basically it's speaking about they go into the past and they start reflecting back on some traumatic things that had happened and whatnot, and it's just really encapsulating. It's really fun, and what I love about New Perspectives is that they don't choose plays that are just the standard things that they believe the audience would see. They like to challenge their audience. They like to bring pieces, as I say, when I did the Trade play at the Playhouse, that was about 3 women, and it was based in the Caribbean, and to say that New Perspectives is a very much a organization who in the past may have done more normal expected plays, where people are doing your Macbeths and stuff like that, they actually try and challenge and bring culture and influence to rural touring and places like that, which I find to be really amazing and inspirational, really.
Yeah, no, it sounds absolutely great. So of course, like as a recent poet who has started this 3 years ago, you have kind of arisen during peak social media movement. So how has it been? You know, do you feel particularly pressured to be a role model on social media? How has navigating through Facebook and Instagram been a benefit or a detriment to you at all?
I definitely wouldn't say, I'm not sure how people take it, but I wouldn't say that I feel pressured to be a role model.
Okay.
Just because I feel like what is acceptable in terms of what's trending on social media isn't what I'm necessarily about. I do believe there's a lot of fakeness and a lot of like manipulating of things to look a certain way. So I can't say that I like strive to be like, follow me, people. But at the same time, in terms of the way it's affected me, I would say in both bad and good ways. So in terms of the good ways, I believe it has enabled me to reach out to more people, to connect with more people, which in itself has led to more opportunities, as well as being able to find opportunities online, which you wouldn't normally like see if you were just obviously looking in libraries and stuff like that. At the very same time, I believe that as much as it's opened up it's opened up the world to me, it's also opened up my world to other people. And so I'm not sure, you might have to cut this out, but I've had a lot of like unsolicited sexual advances and stuff like that. Just
That's
like
horrible.
I'm sure people speak about, just like getting these messages and photos and abuse, and my profile, my Instagram was cloned recently. And just general fears for your own safety, because there's sometimes these people out in the community who try and come at you a certain way. I don't know if it's because of the poetry I speak about that I might seem more vulnerable, but it's like then when you meet me in real life and realize I'm not.
Yeah.
But that's the nature of social media,
Right.
is that people don't really know.
Yeah.
Secondly, I would say that just like a lot of other people, I believe that there's times where it's made me unrealistically compare myself to other people.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe whether it's other poets or the way that they look or whatever it may be. And also I believe that there is this narrative when you see people that they, like, if I put up a healthy food post, now I've got to stick to healthy food posts.
Certainly.
So it kind of like puts you in a lane. So there have been times where it's kind of like, oh, can I put this up? Is it going to match my other content? Am I going to lose followers? But as I say, then I try and remind myself of the authenticity and my real mission, which is just, even if you help one person, because social media can definitely make you lose sight of your main aim, your goal, and kind of like trying to keep up with the Joneses kind of thing.
Yeah, no, understandably. It's horrible sometimes, social media.
Absolutely.
So drawing back into your poetic inspiration, what is your method for creating poems? Do you draw inspiration from the people around you? Is it from the emotions that you're experiencing at the time? Is there also a particular rhyming form that you follow with your work? Any kind of niche stanzas or structures that you follow? Excuse me.
So I can't say that I'm a conventional poet in terms of that. I feel like for me, I just get inspired, as you say, just about the things around me, things that I go through, things that other people go through around me, and just the state of the world. Like, I feel like that inspires me. And when I get like I would say a bee in my bonnet, but in a good way, when it's there and it's like there's a poem that really needs to come out, then I'll just put pen to paper and get it out and then edit it from there. There are a few occasions where if there's something that I really feel like I need to say or get across, I've got an affirmation poem. And when it is a bit more, there's a bit more detail in them, I feel as though I will kind of like write some bullet points and then like know what I want to include in it and then kind of expand from there. But yeah, I wouldn't say that I have like, maybe that was a method in itself.
No, it's a very unique method. I'm sure Shakespeare had something like that as well.
Yeah, possibly. Well, in terms of the rhyming form and inspiration, I would say that I get inspiration from a lot of places, but nowhere specifically. I can't say that I really explored a lot of poetry before, as I say, like being thrown in the deep end. But at the same time, I feel like there was an element of getting inspiration from the likes of Shakespeare and stuff like that, just from growing up and loving. I'm a person that likes to learn new words and all this kind of stuff, so I do have a love of that. But at the same time, I don't limit myself by those forms and structures and stuff like that, because I discovered, as I was saying, when I kind of struggled to call myself a poet, but then I went online and started discovering American spoken word, and that kind of just changed the game for me. That made me know that there is a place for me, and it might not look like this perfectly formed poem, but it is still a way of expressing, and there was a lot more culture that resonated with me, and it made me feel as though it was okay to like draw outside of the line. So I feel like that helped me to merge the two.
Got it.
I also, one thing people really don't know about me is I grew up like loving and listening to grime, hip hop, those kinds of things, and that kind of developed my love for wordplay. So I like to do that. At the same time, one of my main structures, I like to write refrain poetry. So I love the idea of like the affirmations and the fact that you can repeat a word, because I think it like brings you back to a point in the poem, like a center point. It helps you to ground, if you know what I mean. It's like I throw all this information at you, but then we come back to this point, and then I throw all this information at you and we come back, so then it kind of makes it easier digestible, and as I say, it just reaffirms the point in a way. So,
certainly. No, I understand that. And as someone who has an audience and has listeners, are there times where the demands of your audience outweigh who you want to be, and whether you want to be true to yourself? Because there are artists, celebrities, for instance, that have to cater for their audience, and that often compromises the type of art that they want to produce. So do you also feel in that kind of position as a poet with a listener base?
Good question. It has never outweighed, simply because I feel like the moment being a poet outweighs the message that I have to share, I don't feel like I've got that much passion about being a poet, because the only reason it comes across is because of the message that I want people to know that they're not alone, and that they're not alien, nothing's wrong with them. Well, not nothing's wrong with them, but it's not uncommon or unfamiliar and stuff like that. So yeah, I feel, but at the same time, I do believe that there are times where I feel conscious in regards to the way that I'm viewed by people, just because I'm like speaking about mental health all the time. And as I say, people live in a society where they're living their best lives and like putting their best foot forward. So sometimes it feels like you're the one that's just like raining on everyone's parade and just making them depressed and just being like, this is all the terrible stuff in the world. So I do sometimes feel a bit like, oh, I don't want to put that one out there, or I'm not sure how it's going to come across and stuff like that. So that sometimes has I would say it has an effect, but it kind of has an effect on how quickly I put it out. So sometimes I can write a poem and record it, and it's just sat on my phone for like 2 months or 3 months, and then I've built up the courage and put it out there, and then it's got a really good response anyway. But yeah, I guess that the whole reason why I do this is because I feel passionate about that message and my ethos, and that makes it easier for me to listen to my intuition and what I feel is needed, rather than what my audience may say, like, oh, give us a shiny this, or give us a nice selfie poem, or something like that. So yeah, I realise how I feel about it, and the trends don't necessarily match up. But that's okay, because I don't want to go for like the 10,000 followers. So yeah, that helps a lot.
Yeah, certainly. And final question, how has your life changed, for better or for worse, since becoming a Poetic Perception 3 years ago?
Oh, that's an interesting one. I feel like I'm a lot more recognisable, which I don't really like that part of it so much. I've always been like quite a quiet, personal person, and so obviously it was like, what did you expect, Ravelle, when you're putting videos on the internet with your face on them? But at the same time, it has changed my life in such a good way, because as I say, like a lot of these feelings that I had, I've dealt with my own mental health for over a decade, and feeling like I was the only one. And so to do this and put this out there, first of all, it helps me to know that I am trying to make a difference, and also helping me to process my own stuff that I go through, and my own trauma, would I say, that I've been through. So it has helped me in that sense. It's also helped me to connect to people in a more genuine way, because when I put my genuineness out there, it kind of then it invites people to be open with me too, which is really lovely. And I've also, just the self-belief in myself, it's kind of like I have really bad imposter syndrome at times. So then, like, I did Splendor and I was on the stage and I was just like, me, are you sure? And like, Youth Parliament, and I'm like, have you got the right number? So just those things, and actually stepping back and thinking that like people actually find value in something that I'm bringing, which is really nice after like I say, going for such a long time of not seeing value in yourself to some degree. I also love the fact that it's been 3 times now I've been able to bring my daughter on stage. I did a performance at Sheffield Carnival. I did one for, the young people's event at New Art Exchange, and there was another one which I've forgotten. But yeah, she's just like, oh mom, they love it when you do the poem about me, and it makes me laugh so much. Or she'll be like, mom, is that one about me again?
That's cute.
So yeah, there's just ways like being able to let her see me come up like when I was at Splendor and she like ran over to the stage and gave me a thumbs up, and just things like that where it's changing the narrative, which I really, really love. And obviously just in showing people that you can make something even if you've been through hardship. So yeah, I feel like it has changed my life in ways, but I feel like it's more of a positive one.
Yeah.
And it's helped me to see my own worth a lot more as well.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you so much for giving your time here, Ravelle-Sade. It's been absolutely amazing getting to know you as a poet and getting to understand your processes and your inspiration. And I really do look forward to hearing more from you in the future. Good luck with everything, and I hope you have so much mad success.
Thank you. You've been a lovely interviewer too, and I appreciate your questions. Some were challenging, but they're really, really. It's nice to be able to give you my insight.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you too. All right. Thank you everybody for listening. This has been an English Society podcast.
If you want to get involved in the podcast, please don't hesitate to get in touch via the links in the description. To see more podcasts and other content, please subscribe.